Hello. So, I know I've been covering some controversial topics recently, so I decided that I was going to look up the history of the term snowflake. Now, the first thing that I found, it does include, it's from the Urban Dictionary in reference to what snowflake means, and it does include the names of some people that have been talked about on YouTube videos before. So, according to this particular information from the Urban Dictionary, the term snowflake usually refers to somebody, uh, I'll read it properly, referring to somebody usually in the alt-right, Yiannopoulos and Nazi sympathisers aka Aryans, whose immense white fragility causes a meltdown when confronted with the most minute deviation from orthodox white supremacy. They often cry bloody murder when expected to give the most modern expression of basic human decency. This is all a continuation of how snowflake historically refers to people who are against the abolition of slavery. The Aryans have attempted to hijack this term to use against progressives and those opposing fascism. It failed ultimately because nobody was foolish enough to believe anti-fascist registers to be, by any stretch of the imagination, comparable to the snowflakery of the Aryans and their Cheeto-dusted Führer. But the Aryans succeeded in poisoning the well on calling people snowflakes when it became widely understood that they were using it as a euphemism for the human ashes falling in Nazi Germany when they were burning people. This revelation became particularly useful for decoding the Aryan tendency of referring to snowflakes as a generation. Especially telling is the pseudo-concept of a snowflake generation, which operates as a front for the Aryans' need to mark out groups of people to direct their genocidal lust towards. There sure is a lot of Nazi-supporting definitions piling up in the last pages of this word. They are all written by snowflakes who can't deal with having lost the popular vote. Snowflake. A snowflake was a person who was opposed to the abolition of slavery. They were called snowflakes because it said they valued white people over black people. Emily Brewster, lexicographer and associate editor at Merriam-Webster. Snowflakes who stand by and watch civil rights violations are as guilty as the offender. We then have from http thinkprogress.org all the special snowflakes. Snowflake has snowballed. Before last year, or before this printer, snowflake as slang lingered on the fringes of the lexicon. It was a largely non-partisan slight, a mean though not hateful dig at millennials perceived to have an outside sense of their own individuality and by extension importance. Helicopter parented to the hilt, millennials supposedly graduated from college into a dismal economy with unprecedented mountains of student debt, too crippled for this cruel world, ill-equipped to face life's indignities with dignity. But as 2016 dawned, Snowflake made its way to the mainstream and in the process evolved into something more vicious. The insult expanded to encompass not just the young, but liberals of all ages. It became the epithet of choice for right-wingers to fling at anyone who could be accused of being too easily offended, too in need of safe places, too fragile. You can see this linguistic evolution play out on Urban Dictionary. The 2008 definition of snowflake was a person who thinks they are OMG unique, but is in fact just like everyone else. That was redefined in May 2016 as an overly sensitive person incapable of dealing with any opinions that differ from their own. These people can often be seen congregating in safe zones on college campuses. A more aggressive definition went up the following month. An entitled millennial, SJW Tard, who runs her safe place, playing with stress toys and colouring books when she gets triggered by various innocuous microaggressions. Devastated by Brexit means you're a snowflake. Protesting the election of Donald J. Trump, precious snowflake. Asking to take down a statue of a racist on your campus, classic generation snowflake. Sexual assault survivors requesting trigger warnings on texts that include graphic rape scenes, special snowflakes. Last November, snowflake was deemed one of Collins English Dictionary's words of the year. The same month, the LA Times included snowflake in a guide to the language of the alt-right. Guardian called it the defining insult of 2016. A man called Jonathan Green said, "I think it's gone beyond slang. It's a very specific, very politicised insult. The rise of the insult is something actually that's bigger than snowflake. In the aftermath of Trump and Brexit, there has swelled up this vocabulary of vilification. There always been one. My world slang is one of the great components and coiners of it, but it seems to me that these kind of very vicious, really, because they're not meant with a laugh. These quite vicious insults have sprung up specifically within these two political areas. These explosions that happened last year, this kind of very hard insult has come out of it. It just reflects the fact that there are huge and very strong felt divisions in both our societies. As insults go, it's hard to think of one that so clearly conveys so many flaws at once: fragility and self-importance, weakness and self-delusion. Its power," Green said, "comes largely from that duality. Snowflake works in two ways. It melts under the heat. It has no backbone, no spine, no guts, no spirit, anything. It just fades away as soon as people are nasty to it. And the other side is a special side of it. Every little snowflake is different and has its own identity. And think what happens to a snowflake once you get your hands on it. It dissolves right in your palm." There's a lot more information here that I've gleaned. Slang, effective slang, it possesses the same quality. I think that meant to say effective slang possesses the same quality as a well-crafted pop song. It gets stuck in your head whether you like it or not. So it helps that the sound of Snowflake is appealing, said a man called Ben Yagoda, an author and language expert. Snowflake opens soft and closes with a hard K kicker. There's this idea in comedy that words with a K are funny and it has an impact to it. Snowflake also clicks nicely with special, and for formal occasions sparkly, which rhetorically has the alliteration going for it. Another favourite term for the anti-liberal set is buttercup. Also cupcake. Notably used by Megyn Kelly in her memoir Settle for More, in describing her son, a walking cupcake in his mother's eyes, not to be confused with the cupcakes on our nation's campuses who need safe places. But snowflakes have more than going for it. Cupcake and buttercup do have a smack of the feminine about them, like the safe for work way of calling someone a cook, an alt-right burn that originated in pornography, but snowflake carries with it the idea of being unique and precious. It's also a great word for bullying. Bullies' historically favourite word is crybaby, and nothing is probably more likely to elicit a bullied person crying than to be called a crybaby. That pulls the trigger. Snowflake is another self-fulfilling prophecy. If being called a snowflake offends you, well, of course it does. You're a snowflake. Um, there's more information on here about that Emily Brewster, who's a lexicographer and associate editor at Merriam-Webster. There's terminology down here. Snowball was used as a term for a black person as far back as the 1780s. Bartlett's Dictionary of Americanisms from 1848 defines snowball as a jeering appellation for a Negro. For a time, snowflake and snowball were used interchangeably in this manner. It's this thing about, ha ha ha, here's a black person, let's call him something white, said Green. And even as snowflake and snowball were used in technically non-racial contexts like as slang for cocaine, it's still to do with whiteness. The earliest documented appearance of Snowflake with its current gist comes from Chuck Palahniuk's Fight Club, published in 1996. Quote, "You are not special, you're not a beautiful, unique snowflake, you're the same decaying organic matter as everything else. We're all part of the same compost heap, we're all singing, all dancing crap of the world." The quote was also included in the 1999 film adaptation of Fight Club. Bret Easton Ellis picked up on the theme in an episode of his podcast in a riff that asks, rhetorically, "Little snowflake justice warriors, when did you all become grandmothers and society matrons, clutching your pearls in horror at someone who has an opinion about something, a way of expressing themselves that's not the mirror image of yours, you sniffling little weak ass narcissists?" Who is the snowflakiest snowflake of all? Maybe it's not the most delicate, politically correct progressive. Maybe the call is coming from inside the house. Maybe it's President-elect Trump. I'm just reading this stuff out. I picked up the information from online. I'll put the links in the description. There's Emily Brewster. Right, where are we at? Maybe he is, after all, a man who has yet to display the ability to laugh at himself. He is offended by, seemingly, everything anyone has ever said about him that is not sufficiently glowing. He is a man who cannot even bear the really rather soft satire slung his way by SNL. This "we're not snowflakes, you're the snowflake" take started catching on in the weeks after the election, and perhaps that is a signal of the end of Snowflake's reign as the mockery of the moment. It doesn't appear that Snowflake, like other politically charged insults of the 2016 election cycle, will be adopted by its target as a badge of honour and enjoy a second run. Liberals aren't selling Snowflake sweatshirts and donating the proceeds to progressive causes, at least not yet. I think in this day and age the half-life of these folk terms is short. I predict that it has had its day and people are already on to the next thing. The speed with which words and catchphrases come and go has accelerated with the rise of social media and the 24-hour news cycle, which has created a perceived and real need to be fresh and new and hip. That snowflake is a specific type of word, a name-calling insult, only supports Yagoda's certainty that it will fall out of favour before long. If you look at the history of slang, probably next to words for sex and bodily functions, that might be the category for the biggest turnover. Emily Brewster disagrees and says, "I don't see it fading out anytime soon. As long as there is this idea that some people require special treatment, it is so easily lobbed at anyone who complains about being criticised or not having access to things they need. Will it last or not?" Jonathan Green asks. He cited one of the most enduring profanities in the English language. The word fuck. Why did it last? It was better than the alternative. Words last, he said, because they work. So that is a history, it appears, of the term snowflake, which is levelled at anybody who doesn't agree with a person's point of view. I've left it for a while before I've covered anything about the history of this word for personal reasons, but I thought I'd look up some information, and I found a couple of sites in the Urban Dictionary and this other one that I mentioned. In regards to this, anybody who's considered liberal or on the left politically, who disagrees in regards to things like all Muslims being terrorists and things like that, or requiring a safe space to go to in a high school or in college or in university, ends up being termed a snowflake at some point because they won't agree with facts that are being presented by people who do think that all Muslims are terrorists and that safe spaces aren't required and all this. I don't agree with everything on the left, but I mean, I have my own opinions, and my beliefs are what I've learned for myself, and as long as somebody doesn't decide to just attack me and actually has a conversation with me and finds out the reasons why I don't agree with them, then I don't see any reason why we can't carry on being friends, because I'm not even going to agree with everything that people that think similarly to me say. I have my own mind and everything, and they have their own mind, and if you can have a conversation and not to end up just attacking somebody because you presented them with like links or whatever, and just end up using these terminologies to attack them because they won't turn around and go, oh yeah, you must be right, and I better go and buy these books and look at all these links and everything and agree with you. I mean, like, a person's entitled to their opinion that disagrees with my opinion without us resorting to attacking each other. So this is why I looked up this history. I know these videos have been quite long and it's just me reading things out, but I wanted to try and present a few historical things for you. So thank you very much for watching, and do all the usual: share, comment, subscribe, like, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.